What else? Oh yeah. Okay, today I'm going to be taking you guys through my arm workout, exercises which I do to grow my arms, and the best way to go about optimizing for arm growth in general. Your arm consists of 3 muscle groups: your biceps, your triceps, and your forearms. Each muscle group requires specific movements, specific exercises to stimulate hypertrophy and to stimulate muscle growth. So I'm going to take you through the exercises which have led to the most growth for me in this video. There are 2 ways basically you can go about training your arms. You can have a dedicated arm day. I would definitely advise training arms on a specific day if it is a weak point for you. Typically taller people with longer limbs will struggle to fill out their arms proportionately. This is not to say they struggle to actually grow their arms. It's just they have to lay more emphasis on growing their arms because of how they look proportionate to the rest of your body. I've experimented with obviously both training arms on my pull days and my push days, a shoulder and arms and an arm day, and I can tell you from experience that when I have done arm days, I have seen significant growth in my biceps, in my triceps, and in my forearms. I do not directly train forearms. I'm not going to give you exercises to train your forearms. Obviously there are many out there, but the one thing I would say is where I did see significant growth in my forearms was when I performed exercises which involved my grip strength. Whatever exercise you're performing, if it involves you gripping something, the longer you hold on to that, the more stress and tension applied to your forearm will lead to forearm growth. A good example is if you're doing RDLs or if you're doing barbell rows. If you perform these without the additional help of wrist straps, your forearm will be under tension for a lot of time. And what I found is these sort of gripping movements which involve the most forearm is where I have seen growth. Even pull-ups can grow your forearms. You could do some wrist curls, but when it comes to forearms, you get significant growth from your overall training. Now, moving on, biceps. Your bicep consists of 3 heads: your short head, your long head, and your brachialis. Your short head is activated through this one main exercise, the preacher curl. Now, the preacher curl can be performed with the preacher curl machine, the easy bar. My personal favorite has to be the preacher curl machine. The way it's positioned allows you to get a good squeeze at the top of the motion and allows you to grow that peak. So that's the first exercise I highly recommend you do. And this is the first exercise with progressive overload that I've seen the most growth in. Moving on, your brachialis. This muscle can be targeted through hammer curls, whether that's cable hammer curls, dumbbell hammer curls. Some variation of hammer curls will target your brachialis. My personal favorite is the classic dumbbell hammer curls. This part of the bicep will make your biceps actually look big from the side, from the front. This just makes your arms look bigger essentially. And lastly, the third bicep exercise, the incline dumbbell curl. This is a very good exercise which allows for a great mind-muscle connection. Just set up an incline bench at like 30 to 45 degrees. Even higher, you can go up to 60, 90 degrees, as long as you're getting a stretch in at the bottom of your rep. What I recommend here is not going too heavy and just focusing on form. Slow and controlled reps within 8 to 12 rep range or 12 to 15 rep range even, and make sure you're training till failure. This is another really great exercise which is going to target the long head and add to muscle growth. These are my 3 go-to exercises. So that's a bicep covered. Now for the tricep. Like the bicep, the tricep has 3 heads as well: the long head, the medial head, and the lateral head. I've only ever done 2 exercises to target my tricep directly. That is a cable push down with a rope or easy bar and overhead extensions. There's 2 variations which I perform this exercise. I do overhead tricep extensions with the cable, or I mix it around and do single arm overhead extensions with the dumbbell. This targets the long head very well, and how I target the medial and the lateral heads is just one exercise, and that's the cable push down. And that's what's led to the most growth. I don't do dips, I don't do close grip bench press. Obviously your triceps gets indirectly activated through any pressing movements and compound movements like the incline bench press. If you're already doing an incline chest press in your push day, I wouldn't recommend targeting your tricep by doing a close grip bench press. But again, it's subjective. There's many exercises which work. Sometimes I even only do 1 tricep exercises, and that's the tricep cable push down, because if you perform it correctly, it can target all 3 heads. Yeah, that's pretty much it for arms. As I said, if you're training arms every push day, every pull day, and you want to see more growth, you're not satisfied with the growth that you've seen, I do recommend that you choose a day to just perform exercises which isolate your bicep, your tricep, your forearm, and basically just do an arm day. This allows you to ensure that you're performing with enough intensity, Because typically when you train arms, they're isolation movements, right? And they come after you've expended a lot of your energy doing your big compound movements on your push day, like the bench press, or your pull day, like a barbell row. So you may not be training it with enough intensity, and that's typically what happens, right? I guarantee anyone who dedicates one day to just training arms will probably see more growth, because you're training with more intensity whilst only isolating your arms. Obviously guys, growth takes time, but if you're a taller person, you have to have longer limbs. If you feel like you're not training your arms hard enough because you're so gassed after your big compound lifts, then choose a day to just do arm day. I'm pretty sure that will work for you. Another thing about arms, typically when I train them, I prioritize slightly higher rep ranges over low rep ranges. If I was training chest, then yes, I would do a set of 6 to 9, let's say. But if I'm doing a bicep preacher curl or a bicep hammer curl, I'm not going to do like 5-6 reps as heavy as I can go, right? One, because with slightly smaller muscle groups, you are more vulnerable to injury because you are only using that muscle rather than a bunch of muscle groups, right? So you're in a weaker, more vulnerable position. And two, when I'm training for hypertrophy, especially with isolation movements, then I still train till failure. I still train at a high intensity, but I'd fail within, let's say, the 10 to 15 rep range rather than the 5 to 8. And that rep range, I found, you can afford to push past failure and go even more intense because you're not training with such a heavy load. You can do partials, you can do drop sets, you can do rest pauses. I always do these when I do my tricep push downs, when I do my bicep curls, to go that extra bit further to push that muscle past failure. So for example, my tricep push down, when I fail, I will start doing partials, or I will do rest pauses. So I'll wait 4 or 5 seconds, then go again, then wait 4 or 5 seconds, then go again. If I'm doing incline hammer curl or incline bicep curl, once I've failed, I'll wait 10 seconds and then I'll go again, or I'll drop the weight and start going again. Play around with drop sets and rest pauses to further stimulate hypertrophy, further break down muscle. So yeah, that's another tip I'd give for those of you who are training arms. Try stick to the higher rep ranges and add in some drop sets, add in some rest pauses. Now this differs for bigger muscle groups like your chest, like your back. These, in my opinion, do require a balance between both high reps and low reps to stimulate hypertrophy. But yeah, that's pretty much it when it comes to arms. I hope you enjoyed. I hope these tips have been helpful. See you in the next vid. Peace.